Hello and welcome to, I think, episode 32 of the Sales Syndicate podcast. I think I'm going to give up introducing the number or episode number because I'm starting to forget each time. But yeah, episode 32 of the Sales Syndicate podcast. This week we're going to be talking about personalization in sales, why you should be doing it, current state of the market, and hopefully a few actionable tips and some advice in there as well. But before we get into the nitty gritty, I'll hand over to my guest today, Sophie Ellis, to introduce herself.
Hey, so I'm Soph. It's Sophie or Soph, either one is absolutely fine, but I do prefer Soph. So I'm an account exec for Lunio and have worked in SaaS sales for about kind of 6+ years. So yeah, excited to talk through personalization and some little tips that I hopefully can share with you.
Now, we spoke to Corey recently, so people who have listened to that episode might know what Lunio do, but for those who didn't listen to that episode or haven't heard of Lunio, do you want to just give us a bit of a rundown of who they are and what they do?
Yeah, of course. So we're a performance marketing efficiency tool. So we essentially help to prevent invalid traffic on any paid media. So if you're a business that advertises online, whether that's Google or LinkedIn, Facebook, we essentially make sure that bots and scrapers aren't clicking on your ads and wasting any of your ad spend. So we can improve your conversion rates, save you money, and just give you some cool insights into kind of campaigns. So marketing automation, yeah.
So if you're in marketing automation or you're a sales rep for a company that could use some a tool like that, then definitely go and check it out. But to come back to the topic that we're going to cover then, so personalization, I think to give a very quick overview of what will be in the episode, I think we're going to look at sort of the current state of the market, how it used to work, how it's currently working today. There's tons of stuff, blogs, videos out there of people sharing their advice and why you should be doing X, Y, and Z. And then we're going to touch on personal branding, talk about Trumpet. I won't say any more until we get to that point. And then we're going to finish off with some actionable tips, albeit hopefully there should be some actionable tips and advice throughout the episode as well. So, okay, let's start with current state of the market then. We talk to reps every single week, and on the whole, most of them are saying the same thing.
Hard.
It's very tough. Different reps have had varying levels of success. But do you want to just give us a rundown from your perspective?
Yeah, of course. And also I joined Lunio at the start of this year, so it's even harder, I think, because you're trying to build your pipeline. Your first year in any new role is pipeline building, right? Just getting as much conversations and leads and opportunities as you can. But yeah, the market's really tough. I mean, there's been budget cuts across literally everyone. I guess the benefit of something like Lunio is that we are a cost saving tool. So there's that, but the market in general is tough. There's more touch points than ever. I think 2 years ago it was about 18 touch points. Now it's something like 28 to 30. So people are more conscious of where they spend their time, if they're even going to open an email, if they want to have a call, they've got their own stuff to deal with. So yeah, it's hard. And even more tough when you're kind of new into a sales role, I think, as well. So partner with that, it is a bit tough.
Yeah, interesting. You said the number of touch points has increased. I think there's a couple of things I've seen. A company called Dream Data, who are basically analytics, so full sort of journey analytics. And I think they were saying that the average journey that they had tracked through their platform and their customers was nearing a year in terms of that first point of the customer first visited the website or interacted or had an impression with a LinkedIn ads or something. But it's something like 70% of the research is done before they even interact with the sales rep. So like to your point there, it's, if reps are expecting to pick up the phone and, try and get someone on a demo that isn't going to do their research, it's so tough, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Even this morning I was speaking to some of our older AEs that have been here, 2 to 3 years, and they're only just now getting people into trial that they spoke to 18 months ago. So it just takes longer. And like I said, people are investing their time more before you even know about it. So they're doing all of that research outside of anything we'd be able to kind of monitor or track. So yeah, it's a little bit tough.
Yeah, I've been on the other side of it as well. We recently onboarded with Chili Piper, and I apologized to her once I signed the contract because it was essentially a year for that sales cycle. But to be fair, she kept on top of us for that year. But I would have happily done it in 2 weeks, but the buying committee's bigger and the market's like this, it's very, very difficult, isn't it? But we don't, we don't want it to be complete doom and gloom for the episodes, which is why we're going to be talking about personalization as a tactic to help you stand out. So I guess we should start just by defining what we mean by personalization before we sort of chronologically look at it. So what, in your opinion?
So personalization is where you've, instead of that kind of, I guess, spray and pray approach, you're personalizing any kind of outreach, whether that's a message, a voice note, a video, anything that you're sending that person content worthy that they care about, not just because they're in marketing and then you're just going to send them a random blog. You know for sure that they care about it. So it's very much that I would say you've done your research before you even bother sending anything.
And that could be, like you said, that could be as simple as, instead of copy and pasting a message, it's actually, you're recording a video specifically for that person. Hi, John, John Smith, Brains, whatever. And I think hopefully we're going to go through a few tactics and the stuff that you're working on. But the reps that you said had been at Lunio 2 or 3 years, and I guess for those reps who are, we used to have someone who was like a 25-year lifer in sales. How did it used to work then? What was the old school of sales like, or even pre-COVID? Let's talk pre-COVID.
Yeah, so I think I've already used the phrase, but spray and pray is something we always talk about in any meetings we have as a team. Just, it used to be generic messaging. No care was really taken. You'd kind of export, hundreds, if not thousands of people and just put them in a cadence and just lucky to see what kind of stuck. And if you got some replies, great. If you didn't, work on another message next week. But the messaging wasn't really clear. And then I guess the education piece took longer because you'd be maybe getting someone on a call, but really they don't really know what you do. You don't really know what they do. So that discovery, although it's not just one initial phase, took a lot longer to get them to a point of understanding, okay, this person can offer me any kind of value. So there was no, and I did it as well, no personalization really, apart from hey Jamie or hey John. Like, that was pretty much it. The messaging was the same for all of them. And there was no personality, I don't think. I think now I definitely see more on LinkedIn and just generally that there's more personality in the outreach. And that's what, definitely for me, if I get, this can help you as an AE, if there's personality in that outreach, I'll kind of engage with it a lot more. So and I think as well, there was more feature bashing. It was like, hey, look at this colourful, cool dashboard. And it's like, cool, but what does that actually do for me? It was more just, here are all our features, and if you like any of them, let me know, as opposed to, here's what I can actually offer you in terms of like improved conversion rates, and I can give you a better return on your ad spend, and that then helps you make better business decisions. So it's more feature as opposed to like value consultative sales, I think. And
in your defense and in sales reps' defense, that was what was taught. That was what was taught. That was how you were trained. That's what your KPIs were based around. So it would have been, oh, you need to send 1,000 emails this week. I'm plucking numbers out thin there, but there's probably some people who have to send 1,000 emails a week, isn't there? So whereas now, it's the, like you said, it's that quality over quantity, taking the time. I think you used the word consultative, which is a word we love here, because the sort of the trigger aspect. But and that shift has happened. Was it, in your experience, was it COVID that forced that shift?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's definitely where you've seen like a clear change since COVID. I think some businesses, obviously, I actually used to work for we used to sell kind of inventory and operational software, and through COVID actually had the most amount of sales ever. We did like 250% because businesses were trying to be more operational and move to kind of away from Excel and any manual processes onto kind of SaaS. So But then other businesses really struggled, like recruitment. So it really did depend. But yeah, I think definitely that personalization, there's been a switch since, the last 3 years since COVID's kind of come about, for sure.
The story you said about or the personality side of thing, actually, it just reminded me a couple of seats down. He's sitting there, actually, he's on the demo, but we've got an SDR who's so I would say sometimes scared to be himself, because again, that rigid structure of here's a template, follow the template, and it's almost like, oh, he's like, oh, can I say that? Can I post that? I'm like, why not? Like, do it. So he's been a bit of a guinea pig for us in personalization. But so that's sort of like how it used to work, the journey you've been on. So how does it, what is the norm now then for you specifically and your colleagues?
Yeah, I think the best thing, everyone always talks about the real negatives of social media, but the real positives, I think, is there's so many channels that we can reach out to people through, to prospects, but also the research we can do. So, for example, I go onto company websites, and a lot of the time it kind of depends on who your ideal customer is. But luckily I work with marketers, right? And they love talking about what they do and their personality. So on company websites, especially kind of digital marketing agencies, or they'll be talking about who they are and some of their interests. So one of the guys I reached out to was a fan of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And then I used that in the outreach to say, hey, if Charles isn't your favorite character, then you're wrong. But that took me less than 30 seconds to find, right? And that actually got us a conversation going, and actually have now been kind of recommended through LinkedIn because he remembered that initial voice note that I sent. So yeah, some of the real benefits are all of the channels that you can use. Like, I always love a voice note on LinkedIn. I'll create a video. I guess it depends how kind of confident you are in front of the camera as well. I'm not saying everyone has to create a video personalized, and some people hate it. I actually did a poll on my LinkedIn recently about who actually would love a voice note, and a lot of people don't, including marketers, who think they would all love it. But yeah, I think one of the benefits, to summarize, is that we've got all of those channels to utilize. So definitely, as I mentioned earlier about the touch points, using as many as you can and kind of referencing them as well. So if you've sent a voice note on LinkedIn, when you cold call them, say, hey, just wanted to make sure you listen to my voice note. If you haven't, it literally will take you 30 seconds. Let me know your thoughts, or let me reiterate. So that's been a real benefit, to be able to kind of tag them all into each other, if that makes sense, and link them through.
Yeah. No, it's the Brooklyn Nine-Nine ones. That's. I mean, I don't watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so it would have failed on me. But then I guess I would have been talking about Star Trek. I'm thinking on my profile recently, I would have had Star Trek. So if someone reached out to me and referenced Star Trek, that would definitely get my attention.
That's what I mean.
And we got the same SDR who's sitting there. There was did you see that Area 51 thing flying around on LinkedIn? So a guy in America, for those who haven't heard it, I don't know if it's real. Let's assume it's real. He rang a cold called a number, and he was put through to an Area 51 gatekeeper and said, can I speak to this person? They said, they're not available, but how the hell did you get this number? And one of our reps loved it, and he shared it, and there was quite a few people who interacted with his post sharing it. And then he reached out to the people who had interacted with the post, and he said, hi, it's Aaron calling from Area 51. And he actually, he's booked a couple of demos off the back of that. And they, a couple of, one of them, I wouldn't say he didn't take it well, but he was a bit like, hi, and he didn't really know what was going on. And the other guy laughed. So I think, great examples of who cares? Like, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah, what's the worst? Yeah. Literally, what's the worst? Some people won't take it, but
yeah. So that poll you did then, a lot of people saying they don't like voice notes. So what has worked best for you in 2023 so far in video voice notes?
Yeah, so I've actually booked some really, really solid big brand meetings from voice notes on LinkedIn. Cold calls will always work better. I think most salespeople, I see a lot on LinkedIn now saying that works the best. I think it's just because you can get someone right there and then. And also there's that personality that comes across, and they can't ignore the fact you're on the phone there and then. So I think conversion wise, cold calls will always work best. But if I can at least interact with something beforehand, it makes that cold call a lot warmer, and that conversation goes a lot better. So yeah, I send at least, I'd probably say like 10 voice notes a day, if that, maybe a bit more on LinkedIn. And it's not always the first one that will go through. It's sometimes like the second and third where I'll actually get an interaction, but a lot of them on the second and third will be like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to reply, but got caught up in this. But yeah, LinkedIn voice notes and cold calls, I would say, are my two kind of most successful channels. I've had a lot of success through email, but those two are by far the best. Yeah.
Would you essentially say treat your voice notes exactly like you would a cold call, albeit capped at the however long the maximum voice note is, sort of thing?
Yeah, so I always do about 45 seconds. It can only send a minute, so just a little bit below that. But it will sound something like, "Hey, just wanted to send a quick voice note to introduce myself. Notice that you're in digital marketing for Sky. Appreciate you might not have heard of Lunio, but wanted to ask the question if you've explored invalid traffic across your paid ads before. I think there's something we can really help with in terms of conversion rates and CPA. So let me know if that sounds interesting." Done.
Just like that. There you go, straight off the bat. You can tell you're doing 10 of those a day or whatever. So just I mean that I'm going to clip up. That's going to be a great little clip. But can you just give us like your cadence, because you said that they don't necessarily reply to the first one. So what's your standard voice note cadence?
Yeah, so voice note will be first, and then the second one I'll sometimes put like an arrow up and just say, only asking because I know that there's an issue I've noticed with your conversion rate that can help with X. And then if they haven't listened, that will make them go and listen because it's kind of linked to the voice note, and they'd only be able to answer the second question if they've listened. So, and then sometimes I've actually put a lot of the time, do you hate my Midlands accent that much? That's worked really well as well. So a lot of them have just put ha ha ha, or have replied with loads of laughing emojis. So to be honest, like I don't care if I don't get a meeting. It's genuinely just to like connect. If it's just a conversation and they're not interested right now, that's worked well as well, because they've actually recommended me or tagged me in a post that someone's talking about invalid traffic, or someone's talking about what Lunio do, and then they've remembered my name and kind of referred me on. So genuinely, obviously a meeting would be great, but I'd welcome more just a conversation of whatever that looks like. So yeah.
So it's a mixture between text based like messages with voice notes, sort of drip fed in between. Cool. I mean, I'm going to get Aaron on that straight away. I'm going to tell him to listen to this episode, because he's the sort of person who will come and he'll be like, "Oh, I've seen this idea. Do you reckon I should do it?" And then it takes him about 4 weeks to pluck up the courage to do it. And I think we'll get it, because he's also got a bit of a dodgy accent. So he's from the Middlesbrough area.
Nice.
He's looking at me now with with Devil. So, but I actually think the Northern accent does quite well for sales.
It's the most trusted in the UK. So yeah,
trusted apparently, Aaron, most trusted accent in the UK. Northern, yeah, believe it or not, who knew? I wouldn't trust him more further than I could throw him, but there we go. But yeah, please do buy from Aaron. Don't listen to what I just said.
I feel like I need to meet Aaron. I've heard loads about him, but I need to.
Well, to Aaron, come say hello. Just give a wave. You can speak into the microphone if you want, Aaron.
Hello.
Hi.
Go on, speak into the microphone.
You can always trust a Northerner like me.
Gorgeous.
She said gorgeous. Oh, right. Back to the actual episode. He'll love that. We'll clip that up for LinkedIn. So voice notes, you do the videos as well. How are you, the videos, are you doing those like Loom?
Yeah. Yeah. So I just use Loom. I kind of mix it up really with whether I send a voice note or whether I'll send a personalized video. And that will just be similar. It will just be, hey, just wanted to introduce myself, wanted to put a face to the name. Because most of the time I'll have connected in the last kind of 2 to 3 weeks. So I've left it long enough where they'll have seen a post that I've posted. So I'm not just someone they've connected with and they've never seen. So hopefully they've kind of got a bit of an understanding of what Lunio do, or have seen me pop up somewhere. But yeah, a mixture of voice notes. Sometimes I'll put an initial connection request message, and and it will just look something like, "Hey, John, I'll cut to the chase because I know you'll probably get loads of these. 2 bullet points. This is what we do. This is how we can add value. Let me know if it sounds interesting." And that's it. And if they accept, I'll assume that that means that they're interested in kind of having a conversation. So yeah, I just mix it up, to be honest. But voice notes have definitely been the most successful, I think, because I definitely wouldn't be able to receive a voice note and not listen because my curiosity would just
that's so true, isn't it?
I wouldn't be able to not listen. So hopefully
The psychology of fear of missing out, I think they call it, don't they? Like it could be a 99% discount in that message. You never know, do you? So no, because you mentioned there about people seeing your posts in between. Like obviously we're connected on LinkedIn, and you've been active in that. I've seen your posts like consistently since we connected. I think you shared one about your houseplants. That piqued my interest because before my current role, I actually owned a online store for plants.
No way.
We did that for about 18 months, 2 years, and then we decided we were like, oh, this is either going to take investment or a lot of money, and we were like, nah, we're not gonna take the risk. So, but you know, I've been seeing you consistently in my feed. And we were going to talk about personal branding and social selling as part of that personalization. So what are your views on personal branding, social selling, like that whole, it's quite fashionable now, isn't it? But what's your view on that whole movement?
Yeah, I think it's genuinely one of the most important things. Like I assume that everyone I reach out to as a prospect will search for me. So I want that to look you know, one, professional, but also my personality. I've mentioned that a few times, but I like to think that my personality comes across on my LinkedIn. And that was actually one of the actionable tips for the end. So sorry that I'm stealing it now, but I always talk as if I'd talk in real life. Like I would never put, "Hi, Jamie, hope this email finds you well," because I'd never say that. And it doesn't sound like me. And I'd never put "kind regards." And I'd never write a LinkedIn post that was super serious and didn't have like at least a pun in it or some kind of, you know, a little bit of humor, because I think that goes a long way. So and there was a stat actually around 70% of salespeople exceeded their quota by as much as 20% more if they use social media to sell, or as if not to kind of reach out, but as long as they've got some kind of consistent posts or they're active in terms of commenting. So yeah, I mean, it just by that stat alone, it's important to make sure that you're at least somewhat active on there.
100%. We've done quite a few episodes. I think, have you heard of Hoxo Academy? Yes. So they're more staffing and recruitment focused, but they're a personal branding sort of agency in that they help people build their personal brand and social selling. And bring up Aaron again, but he is literally my guinea pig. He's done wonders with his personal brand and social selling. And it's when you actually, like you said, boil it down, it literally is just connecting, interacting, just being yourself. The thing you said about how you open a message or a post and putting, "Oh, I hope you're well. Oh, how's your week going?" It's like, I think Lavender AI said that that's one of the worst openings you could put, because you know, I don't know, 80% of people put that.
Yeah,
and it often
that initial part of the email is the most important part. And I read something, I think it was Lavender that said this as well, which is the first email only serves for you to read the second part, and then the second sentence needs to make you want to read the third, and then so you're only ever kind of writing the for, I guess, any sentence for the next one, and then as long as, you know, someone's interested, they'll get to the end. So yeah, I hope this email finds you well, delete. I mean, I definitely will. It's just not interesting enough, like, especially if it's outreach.
If you think about like when you've got that message preview as well in your inbox, what you're going to see is subject line and then a snippet of the first line. And if the first line that you said is, "I hope you're having a good week," rather than, you know, invalid clicks bringing you down, or whatever it is, you're probably going to click on the latter, right? But no, I mean, we both talked about Lavender there, but go and follow Lavender if you want like cold email outreach tips as well. So personal branding, social selling has been a success for you then, basically.
For sure, yeah. And I think the benefit of being engaged on LinkedIn and just anywhere really socially is that you learn so much from other people in your industry and other, apps that you might use, or even just the industry that you're reaching out to. Like, luckily, digital marketing is huge and everywhere, and they love talking. I used to sell to finance teams and finance directors, and sending a voice note to a LinkedIn on LinkedIn to a finance director, I can tell you, will never go down well, because they're so uninterested in, one, salespeople, and two, social media most of the time, not generalizing. Whereas digital marketing teams and marketing teams in general, typically will kind of embrace it a little bit more. So, yeah.
Do you find GIFs work well for you in as part of that?
Yeah, definitely. And I've included that in some of my cadences in certain steps, and yeah, they do actually. I don't know what the like any stats around it, but I've seen that GIFs are always really engage really well. So,
do you have a personal favorite?
I actually love that, that little girl in the pink t-shirt that just her eyes just look up.
The sort of fed up face. Yeah.
So I use that quite a bit, but yeah, we've got a few, I guess because Lunio is kind of space themed. We've got a lot of space and Star Wars and Star Trek. So you'd actually probably love some of those.
Yeah. I mean, I well, because you don't just sell to agencies, do you?
No,
you sell to
marketing. Cool.
Yeah. So I mean, I would be sort of probably in the ICP then, but we found Mr. Beam GIFs work really well. The one of him just sitting by a field looking at his watch waiting for that seems to work well when people don't reply to you, or very well actually. So there's a tip for people. Okay, so the next sort of portion we were going to chat about sort of flows nicely. So once you've hooked the prospect, they're talking, they're interacting, and you book them in for a demo, and it's basically you've now got an opportunity. We're going to be talking about Trumpet and how Trumpet helps you personalize that portion of the process. So do you want to just give us a rundown of who Trumpet are, what Trumpet is, and then we'll just run through how you use it. Now, this is not an ad. We do actually have Rory from Trumpet, one of the co-founders, coming on in a few weeks. So this will be a nice sort of warm up for that. But do you want to just give us an overview of Trumpet?
Yeah. I'm hoping Rory and Nick send me some merch for this. But,
some Trumpet swag, yeah.
So Trumpet is essentially, it allows you to create pods that are personalized. So a pod looks a little bit like a landing page. So it's essentially one place where you can enter, information about who Lunio are, why we benefit the company, links to case studies, information about ROI, a link to your calendar if they want to book in, who you are. It's essentially a landing page of all the most important information that prospect would need to know. And I guess previously, prior to using something like Trumpet, you'd have to, after a discovery call or a demo, when they're like, oh, just send me some more information, or even after a cold call where they say, okay, yeah, sounds interesting, but just send me something. You'd have to attach a link to a website for your case study, a PDF of product information. If it was post demo, a success plan on Excel, and who's going to open all of that separately, with 5 different tabs open. So Trumpet just allows all of that in one place. It looks super professional. It sets you apart from competition because it's really slick and easy to use. And it's also collaborative. So instead of them having to reply to an email, if they had a question on a certain part, part of the pricing, for example, they can just comment on Trumpet and that'll come straight through to you quicker than you'd be able to reply to an email. So it's amazing. I'm all for it. I love it. It's genuinely changed the way that we outreach for sure, and also that follow-up post demo as well. It's been amazing.
Yeah, because you're essentially creating a microsite for each opportunity, aren't you? And you can, because we look, it's on our wish list. I'm not going to lie. So we've sort of used it, tested it and stuff, and it's very much drag and drop, complete custom builds to that opportunity based on what you feel is most relevant. You can drop videos and multimedia sort of assets in there, but you also get the analytics side of things, don't you? Because if you're attaching something in an email, your chances are you're not going to get much visibility of opened, who's opened it,
yeah.
who's viewed it, yeah, or like you said, like comments back, on the pod. And I think I had a look at Trumpet before this actually, and I think they're averaging something like 76% pod open rate, and I'd imagine that's a lot higher than someone opening links or files in an email. So have you seen? Do you have like before Trumpet and after Trumpet stats, or even if they're qualitative or quantitative?
We've had it since like my first month here, so I haven't really got too many stats, but I guess we can. The other one of the other benefits is that, especially through that host discovery or demo phase, they have to enter their email in, because a lot of the time you're not quite sure. I guess this is part of like, you're mapping out the decision process and whatever, but who's involved in that kind of sign off process, or who even wants visibility of the sale, and they have to enter their email address to kind of view it, so you can really see who's logged in when, what part of the pod they've engaged with. So if someone's gone into the pricing 4 times, it will tell you that, so that just send a quick email or give them a call to say, hey, notice you've looked at this, is there anything we can do to clarify, or
With that.
so yeah, nothing kind of post and pre, but it's fab with it.
No, I think from what we've seen, it looks amazing, and I think any way that you can, the whole point of this sort of episode, any way that you can personalize the process for someone, the more they're going to feel as if it's a bespoke service, and that they're getting your tailored service. And it's, no one likes looking back through all the threads of emails and things. So to have it all in one place, it does make perfect sense. So as soon as you've hooked them, then you'd essentially create a new pod. You'd add case study videos. Would you then update that pod? Like you said, you've got the voice notes and the video sort of video, I don't know, not pitches, but like the video recordings you do. Would you then update that pod as you go along with, like, refresh it with new content and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. And we actually use it to reach out via LinkedIn as well. So if I've connected with someone and I know they're the right person in the right role, and I know we can add value, I'll actually create a pod even if I've never spoke to them, because again, it just looks really, it sets you apart from all of the other people that are trying to sell to that marketer, right? So we create pods for like initial outreach, and it's had really good engagement. A lot of the time they'll open and then kind of browse through, and that might take a bit of time to come back, but again, if I received a personalized pod with my name on it, my company branding, information about exactly the industry that I work in and how the person that's reaching out is going to benefit that industry, then I would 100% engage with it. So we've seen it's really, really useful for that initial engagement. And anything post that. So if it's just more generic information about Lunio and how we can help, and then we want to add in pricing because we've had that conversation, and we want to add in a mutual success plan or an NDA that we need to sign, then we can just upload that from the same link, and then it just updates their end. So it's amazing, really, really good.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're probably going to have to pick back up that conversation with our head of finance and see if we can get that one picked back up again, because it integrates with loads of stuff as well, doesn't it? So it just makes complete sense. Like, you're putting all that effort into personalizing your outreach and trying to hook them, and you can't forget about, once you've hooked them, you need to retain or maintain that personalized approach. Otherwise, it goes from great outreach from an SDR or an AE, and then it's like it feels a bit cookie cutter from there onwards if you don't have like that bespoke approach to follow it. So, okay, so we've covered like current state of the market, how it used to work pre-COVID or like old school, the spray and pray. I think we've used that phrase before, and I think it tends to spark a lot of conversation, doesn't it? The spray and pray. We've talked about current state of play in personalization, personal branding, and social selling, and then Trumpet. So, taking all of that into account, let's move on to the finishing part of it, which is the actionable tips. So, if you were someone was gonna start personalizing next week, they're doing spray and pray this week, and next week they want to start to personalize. What's the best way to start?
I think, and I've mentioned this before, that I think I robbed earlier on, but the main thing is that talk as if it's you, right? As if you're in front of that person. Just don't overthink it. Like you mentioned, your team was saying, well, should I do that? Shouldn't I? Like, what's the worst that can happen? They don't reply or they don't open it and you never get a response. Fine. You've got thousands of other people to reach out to. So talk as if it's you, add some of your personality into it. If you don't feel like comfortable to do that, there's a few people to like follow on LinkedIn who are like, who actually give posts, about what to even put in that subject line, or like one of my cadences is what's for lunch. And then I talk about like how Lunio links into like them taking their lunch money and not being able to have their lunch. So just humor also goes a really, really long way. And I know that's not easy to sometimes like drum up. We're not like naturally, can't think of something funny off the top of your head. And I think this might be where I lose some people, but I do actually use ChatGPT quite a bit, not to kind of personalize everything for me, but to say, I've got this idea, like, can you link the challenges of invalid traffic to someone losing their lunch money, or link the challenges of invalid traffic to how if I don't look after my plants, they'll die. And then I don't use that specifically, but I rewrite in my own words. But it's really, one, it's quick, and two, it's still personalised to whoever you reach out to. So yeah, I think humour, talk as if you would in real life.
Okay, so that's some great advice there with ChatGPT as well, because like you said, it's by no means are we saying chuck everything in there, copy and paste it, and use it verbatim. But I think for this for our podcast, we would upload our podcast into AI, and then we'd use ChatGPT to actually help us like write a long form piece and that takes like 2 hours instead of potentially a week. But then we'll go through and check everything, paraphrase, we'll sort of rewrite it. And I think it's a great tool for either ideation and then you go off and execute on that idea, or like you said, you put an idea into it, it fleshes it out, and then you refine it. I think that's a great tip. Like because personalization, like you said, some people think it takes a long time, it adds just unnecessary time. But if you can use ChatGPT to help speed it up, then it's probably going to take just as long as the old way anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Because that research that you do pre-reaching out takes a little bit of time anyway. And then if you're having to kind of think of what's the link between, like if someone's got on their LinkedIn that they love cars or they love Formula One, like how do you link that to the challenges? And that will probably get them interested, but you don't quite know how to word it in a way that's not like, whatever. Then that's exactly what ChatGPT is for. And you can actually say like, make this snappier, make it a little bit more humorous, and it will. So it just, like you said, that time is, I use it daily, so it's really good for that.
Cool. Short, snappy one. Top 3 channels personalization.
LinkedIn, cold calls, and I feel like they're the only 3. LinkedIn, cold calls, and email cadence.
Well, trumpet could be one.
Trumpet. Yeah.
Trumpet could be one. I was just about to say, I was just about to use the cliche blowing their trumpet, but that sounds too obvious, doesn't it? Too cheesy. Okay, so it's weird because I know you've got actionable tips, or you've got some tips, haven't you, written down? So what? Okay, those I was going to say. How did you like structure it?
Yeah. So the talk in real life, talk as if you would in real life was one. The humour goes a long way was the second one, and then that kind of research piece is key. Just find anything that you can that's relatable. Like sometimes they'll have commented something like the other day, this guy didn't really have too much on his LinkedIn about his interests or anything really, but I'd gone on his recent activity and found that he'd commented something about how much he loves butter. So I use that. Again, took me less than 2 minutes to find, like just sift through that activity. If they don't have anything already on the LinkedIn, go on the company website. I think those are the 3 kind of, the 3 things that I would do pre-reaching out to someone.
If you had to pick one format, let's say. So like one format of like the voice note video, like what would be the single, where would you start? Just to pick one.
Voice note, yeah, 100%. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, then a quick I'm trying to think what the best one, because I guess I'm just like comfortable with doing a voice note. Some people aren't. So a 3-sentence like summary, and I would start it with like, Jamie, not even hey Jamie, just Jamie, notice you're doing X. I know I can help with Y. Let me know if that sounds interesting. Just leave it at that. Really direct. Cool. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to try that out, and then I think to finish off, I'm trying to think of like one more. I was going to say, what is the final question would be, what has been your single biggest success story in terms of personalization that people could take some inspiration from?
Yeah. I think in my first few months here, I booked 3 really like big brand meetings from 2 touch points. So a voice note, and then that follow up of, do you hate my Midlands accent that much? And I guess that was really, I just felt really confident that one, that channel works, and 2, when it's your first few months, you obviously want to prove that, you're a good salesperson. So yeah, I think the most recent success would be that kind of, and I think the team might agree, hopefully they do, that my personalization kind of flows through and like through the team, and they've taken some inspiration from that as well. Yep. So they're kind of trying out tips that we've talked about today, and I'll be kind of the person that they'll say, hey, do you think that works, or what are your thoughts on this? So that's a real success. Yeah.
So a sprinkling of self-deprecation is what we're saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So don't be afraid to rip into yourself. Whether you're a redhead like me, or you've got a northern accent like Aaron, or a Midlands accent. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess in the hierarchy of accents, it's definitely down the bottom, isn't it? Midlands. Yeah.
Luckily, I'm not like Black Country Birmingham, because that would be, I've heard some of my friends in sales are like, people just hate me. Like, I'll call them. I literally don't want to speak to you. I'm like, yeah, I'm all right.
There you go. You heard it here first. If you've got a thick Birmingham accent, sales probably isn't for you.
Just give up.
Obviously, we're joking. I'll just put that in there at the end, because otherwise we're going to sound awful. But no, look, thanks for coming on. Hopefully, it wasn't too pressurized, too bad. And I think you've shared some really, really great advice there. Obviously, we'll be clipping everything up. So for those who want the bite size chunks, I mean, this could be interesting. The clips that we give you could actually try using some of those about outreach and saying,
I think so.
Yeah, and just be like, look, I actually went on a podcast to speak about personalized outreach. Is it working? ? Or whatever.
I love that. Yeah, in anyone I haven't followed up with yet, that I've sent those initial kind of voice notes to, I'll send them the snippet and say, hey, clearly, is it going to work or not? What do you think? Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, I think what we might actually, because we're going to write this up as well, we might actually have to put that as like a follow-up case study, using the clips, using your own content as part of it. So we'll have to catch up in a few weeks or a couple of months and see if you've had any success with that. But like I said, thanks again for jumping on. Hopefully, you'll put out the good words for people who are and ahhing about potentially coming on or whatever. But it's been super useful. So thank you.
Thank you.